Good evening. My name is Jerry Cochran, and I'd like to call the City of Pasco Planning Commission meeting to order. I'd like to welcome all those in attendance this evening and ask you to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Tanya Bowers,
present.
Paul Mendez,
Present.
Kim Lerman, excused. Abel Campos, excused. Rachel Teal,
Present.
Jay Hendler,
Present.
and Jerry Cochran.
Present.
I forgot what I was supposed to say. Chair, there are 5 members present. We do have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. The Planning Commission is an advisory board made up of volunteers appointed by the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide recommendations to City Council regarding change to the city's comprehensive plan, land use updates, block grant allocations, and zoning code. The Planning Commission is tasked with considering the long-term growth and the development of the community, the impact of land use decisions on the community, livability, economic opportunity, housing affordability, public services, and the environment. I'd like to remind the audience tonight's proceedings are being broadcast live on the City of Pasco's Facebook page and on Charter Spectrum Cable PSC channel 191 and will be rebroadcast several times this next month. The meeting is also being recorded and you can watch it on the City of Pasco's website, which is pasco-wa.gov. Click on Video on Demand link and make your selection there. There are copies of tonight's meeting agenda available at the back table, so you follow along with the meeting if you like. At this time, I'd like to ask you to silence all your cell phones to prevent interruptions during our meetings. For those present this evening, when you're given the opportunity to address the Commission, please come to the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, and state your name and city of address for our records. Before we begin, I need to remind the audience and the Planning Commission that Washington state law requires public meetings like this one being held this evening not only to be fair, but also to appear to be fair. In addition, Washington state law prohibits Planning Commission members from participating in discussions or decisions in which the member may have a direct interest or may either be benefited or harmed by the Planning Commission's decision. An objection to any Planning Commission member hearing any matter on tonight's agenda needs to be aired at this time or it will be waived. First, are there any Planning Commission members who have a declaration at this time regarding any of the items on the agenda? Let the record show there were no declarations. Second, is there anyone in the audience this evening who would object to any of the Planning Commission members hearing any of the items on the agenda? Let the record show there were no declarations. We as the Planning Commission value and need and value your input. It helps us to understand issues more clearly and to make better decisions to city and recommendations to City Council. Furthermore, in many cases, your input here at the Planning Commission meeting is your only opportunity to get your facts and opinions placed onto the official record of the City Council that will be used in its decisions. I encourage you to take full advantage of the opportunity. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from September 15th, 2022. These meeting minutes were mailed out to the commissioners ahead of time. I trust you had an opportunity to take a look at these. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes or any questions or concerns.
I so move. I second that.
It was moved by Commissioner Hendler and seconded by Commissioner Mendez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let the record show that meeting minutes from September 15th, 2022 were unanimously approved. There's no old or unfinished business on the agenda, so we'll move right into the public hearing. The first and only item on the public hearing agenda is Residential Design Standards Phase 1, which is CA 001. And I assume staff will take it from here.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. You may recall this is an item that's been shared with you several times over the past year with an intent to update our residential design standards to offer additional flexibility for increased densities and housing types and increasing design standard simplicity, particularly with the focus on multifamily development standards. You may recall that we currently do not have specific multifamily development standards. At the September workshop, staff had indicated to the commission that we intended to come back this month in October with an ordinance ready with a recommendation to approve to council. That ordinance was just prepared. It's a fairly lengthy and significant change to the Pasco Municipal Code that changes multiple sections, chapters, and subsections of the municipal code, because this amendment proposes to adopt everything from new lot sizes, lot widths, lot frontages, to particular landscaping and parking standards for multifamily development. So there's a lot of domino effect within the municipal code changes, and simply it was not ready in time to prepare in an appropriate manner for the Planning Commission. In addition to that, as we have prepared the SEPA, the State Environmental Policy Act, on the code amendment. Actually, if you can go to the next slide, which we expect to complete by the Planning Commission meeting in November, we've identified that while the intent of the code and the result of the code will likely meet the objective of providing more flexibility and more housing opportunities, the result of the code would also decrease potential the open space component with neighborhoods, and also the transportation has not yet been essentially dealt with. With these codes, with this code update in particular, there's an opportunity to drastically allow more housing, which is what we need and what we want and what we're trying to encourage. However, until we've addressed both the transportation impact and the lingering open space impact as it relates to increasing the lot coverages on our single family detached R1 zone in particular, staff would like to understand if the Planning Commission is interested in us incorporating or coming back at a different time with additional recommendations to account for open space and recreational opportunities. You may recall that technically in the Pasco Municipal Code, only in the plan unit development is open space required. Now, every residential permit and project does pay the park impact fee. Unfortunately, that's more of a reactive process, though, where we get a park after the fact versus designing that park or open space at the time of development, or certainly during the development review process. So there's currently two motions for the Planning Commission in the staff report. We actually would recommend neither of those be considered, and actually just a motion to continue the public hearing. And then also, if the Planning Commission is interested in pursuing additional considerations as identified in the staff report this evening. So really short summary, but happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission has this evening.
Thank you. Are there, commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, feedback for city staff?
According to the graphic, the ordinance is currently under pending legal review. Is that just part of the norm?
It is. In fact, we actually we wanted to get a head start on it. Right now, the draft ordinance is approximately 90 or so pages. And so we wanted to get a head start on the legal review. We may not get that completed by the time the November meeting, but we certainly will hear any red flags, and we want to get those corrected before a potential recommendation is made by the commission.
Other questions or comments, commissioners? So I assume that if there's these additional considerations, then your third option for a motion of continuance, you'd come back with more details or more kind of information on those two areas would be the goal then?
This is correct. And in fact, one of the items, particularly with transportation, is an item later on in tonight's agenda packet.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any recommendations or guidance on those two consideration areas to staff that you'd like to see? Or
This is Commissioner Teal. I was just curious, or I would be interested to see a little bit more about the open space. Just when I look at the graphics, both to the right, it makes you wonder, you know, kind of what close open spaces they have if they don't have yards and that kind of thing. So, you know, looking at those additional considerations, I think would definitely be beneficial.
Thank you. Now, I think the pictures are not an open space because that'd be more parks. Is that correct?
It could be either or. In particular, with the concern that staff has right now, well, there's two concerns with the open space. One is that we don't require open space right now outside of a planned unit development. And so while each development or preliminary plat, et cetera, pays into the park impact fee, that's a reactive process. So it's after the fact that we're able to come back and maybe put together a project for a park. But we're not able to do that at the time of development. Some communities actually have that built into their subdivision code, such as X% must be dedicated for open space if you meet this number of units or this kind of density or this amount of space, et cetera. The city is wrapping up its park recreation and open space master plan. It should be completed by the end of the year. And what the existing conditions of that report indicate is that right now the city is only meeting 70% of its obligations or intended level of service for park and open space for the city of Pasco. So that is also something we wanted to incorporate either right now or follow up this amendment with an effort to address the open space standards, whether it's private or public, to the best we can as the city continues to grow.
Thank you. I'll ask for other commissioners' comments. One of the things I was thinking about for open space, it'd be nice to see some options that are driven by like unit count or like, hey, you know, this is one way to do it. When it reaches a certain unit threshold, we do proactive open space, or hey, here's another approach for proactive open space, and giving us maybe some options might be a good approach.
And as a follow-up question, would that be something you would like to see, you'd be interested in seeing as part of this amendment, or following up this code amendment with an open space or parks amendment? And I think the benefit of that would be that it doesn't delay this effort and allows projects that are maybe waiting for these amendments to move forward to use these a little bit sooner, and then allow staff some time to do some research, look at our local cities and other communities and find out what works best for them and what might work best here in the city of Pasco.
Yeah, I'll let the other commissioners weigh in, but I like that approach because this is also big, right? And so being able to be more, you know, eat the elephant one bite at a time might be a better approach. So I like that idea, but I'm open to, you know, please weigh in, other commissioners, if you have different ideas.
This is Commissioner Bowers. I agree with what my colleagues have put out there.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowers. All right, commissioners.
Commissioner Teal, I agree as well. I think that would be great.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions or feedback for staff before it is a public hearing item, so I want to open it up to the public hearing. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Any individuals who wish to speak on this particular item, now's the time to come forward and speak. Please state your name and city of address for the record. Okay, second call for public hearing. Anyone wants to say something? And finally, third call. All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing on this item. And commissioners, I would entertain a motion. The staff has given us 2 motions in the documents and then a third one, which would be continued. So I'd entertain a motion or any of those motions.
I make a motion to continue the public hearing.
I'm sorry, who was that? Was that Commissioner Teal or Bowers? I didn't quite.
Bowers.
Commissioner Bowers, thank you, has moved that we continue. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Commissioner Mendez has seconded that. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Let the record show that it was moved by Commissioner Bowers and seconded by Commissioner Mendez, and the motion passed unanimously. So I guess the next step is we'll see this minus those other things in November, and then you'll come back after November sometime with the open space or the other two areas.
Correct.
All right, that's the last of the public hearing items. We will move into the workshop portion of the agenda, and we have the first item on the workshop is a memo on street connectivity amendment update.
Greetings again, Planning Commission members. You may recall this is an item that was subject to several workshops and public hearings dating back to December of 2019 with the intention of creating mobility standards, street connectivity standards for the city of Pasco, particularly with the focus on residential developments. In October of 2020, there was a recommendation from the Planning Commission that focused on block lengths, block perimeters, street spacing standards that would essentially implement the pending transportation system master plan at the time, which is now adopted, and also intended to implement several years of city council goals. This was an effort that received significant support from various local, regional, state agencies and organizations. There was also some significant concern about the cost of their proposal from the Home Builders Association of the Tri-Cities. Later in the fall of 2020, you may recall that the council and staff had recommended that we come back to the Planning Commission to evaluate the proposal and to continue to collaborate with the members of the Home Builders Association to come up with potentially an alternative if that was the result. We've had significant numerous dialogue with the home builders group over the past several months. We have not reached an alternative, specific alternatives to date, but we continue to discuss potential opportunities with them with the intent of meeting council goals. And one of the things that staff wants to at least mention to the Planning Commission is that the proposed recommendations are directly from the Transportation System Master Plan. And while the council goals have varied over several years, dating back to the mid-2005, 2006 era, there's been a significant increase in emphasis on emphasizing transportation connectivity, transportation planning in general, with the focus on multimodal planning for several years now. I think it's also worth mentioning that since 2000, the hearing examiner has approved 1,487 lots, essentially without these standards in place, and we have roughly 600 to 800 lots right now going through the development review process. So similar to the item that was just discussed, while we are working to increase housing opportunities and housing flexibility at the city, we do want to be very careful because while it is important to increase housing, we still need to address how folks are going to move around in the city of Pasco. So we're looking for some direction if the Planning Commission is willing to offer any. We just want to be careful that if we do come back with a proposed recommendation that differs from what was recommended originally in 2020, that it is staff's opinion that it may not meet the objective of council goals and obviously implementation of the transportation master plan. So a really short update. We continue to have discussions both internally and with members of the home builders group and also continue to take feedback from the community, but wanted to provide the Planning Commission with an update because this has been a lingering effort for a couple of years now.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions or feedback, or staff is seeking direction, so if you have any thoughts or ideas. Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about is maybe, you've made an effort to dialogue with the home builders and development community. Maybe it's now getting to the point where you start to put some of those ideas and proposals out in public forum or in hearings and let those folks show up and talk, present their views and with different options and just move forward with some recommendations. Because, you could dialogue with them for a very long time, but maybe it's better to start just getting some ideas and then having the forum of public debate kind of just help us decide which of those ideas are good. I agree that you want it to be aligned with the transportation system master plan and the council goals. So maybe it's just starting to say, here are some options, or here are some ideas that are aligned, and then let's just have the development community, home builder association, or individual developers come and tell us what they think. And if they object, maybe that'll help us help you. So that's my thought. I open to other commissioners if they have other ideas as well.
Hi, this is Commissioner Bowers.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bowers.
Thank you. I remember those meetings, and I feel like you have made, or a lot of progress has been made. Even if you haven't yet reached an agreement, I'm curious to see how far, whatever it is that you can come to some sort of consensus on how far away that would end up being from those original goals that were set up. Because I'm also wondering how, I don't know that the home builders were necessarily in favor of those goals. Because it seems like they entered the conversation after those goals had already been established.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowers. Any thoughts?
Well, Commission, I think the goals that Mr. Gonzalez is referring to are council adopted goals. So they've been in the present form in one way or another for some time now. Not to say that through this process we won't get maybe some clarification on what good connectivity means, but right now we're taking it to mean both vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, etc. It's not just limited to one single or two modes.
Thank you, that's helpful. Yeah, and they've had access and visibility, and those have been published for council goals, so it's not a surprise, even though they came late to the conversation. Yeah, I agree. Other thoughts or feedback for staff on this item? Okay, hearing none, I guess we will move on to item B, which is also another memo on text amendment requesting for mixed-use zoning district.
Yes, good evening again, members of the Planning Commission. The city has received a request for a zoning text amendment to create a mixed-use zoning district that would alter and amend our existing waterfront development district. Actually, I think most of the Planning Commission was on the commission at the time back in 2020 when a proposal for the creation of a new waterfront development district was established, and that essentially allowed for more flexible development opportunities with an intent to do more mixed-use development types, both vertical and horizontal. That geography was limited to the Osprey Point area located where the Port of Pasco headquarters is at, south of A Street, east of the Capel Bridge. And the city has received a request to amend that to apply that citywide. Staff supports this effort, but certainly wants to come back to the Planning Commission if there's any information or guidance or input that you wanted to share before the effort moves forward beyond this point.
Excellent, thank you. So what you're saying is like it's limited to Osprey Point now, but this would be expanded where it could apply to any waterfront district, such as like the Broadmoor development or something like that?
No, it actually would be allowed. So actually, it would implement the mixed residential commercial land use. So we have a mixed residential commercial land use where we currently allow a variety of residential only uses and the commercial use, but we do not have a mixed residential commercial or mixed use zoning district. So this would be allowed under that land use, essentially implementing our own comprehensive plan land use.
Great, thank you. Are there questions, other questions from the commissioners or feedback on this workshop item?
This is Tanya Bowers. I like it.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowers.
I agree as well. I think it provides us flexibility. So yeah, I think it's a good idea.
All right, yeah, I do well. I like the idea of the additional flexibility, so I guess we'll hear from you with a proposal at some point.
Yeah, we'll host likely a workshop in November and potentially a public hearing in December. We'll be sure to refine that timeline, and there'll be an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant as well.
Excellent, thanks. Anyone else on this item before we move on? All right,
Quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
How does PUDs fit into that?
Well, planned unit developments actually allow for both residential and commercial uses currently, and they're allowed in all of our residential and the mixed residential commercial land use. We do have a slowly moving planned unit development ordinance to sort of refine the development standards, particularly with open space. Actually, it was that intent. But the current PUD code does allow both vertical and horizontal mixed use projects.
Thank you. I'm all for the mixed use zoning. I think it's a very healthy direction for the city to go, and will provide for some exciting opportunities for new living and new activities. So I'm all for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hendler. All right, anyone else on this memo, item B? All right, hearing none, we'll move to item C, which is another memo on corner lot fencing code amendment.
Thank you, Commissioner. And if you get your memory caps on, back in January of this year, you considered this item and made a recommendation to council. The Planning Commission recommendation was not acted upon. Instead, there was direction to council to reconsider, particularly for how this may be applied to larger lot zoning districts. As you can see by the memorandum, staff has come up with at least some suggestions for the commission to offer direction on. However, something that staff was not able to come up with is any particular benefit that would occur if this was only limited to large lots. So we're striving to come up with some alternative, again, to present to council that would be able to be applied in many zoning districts, not just large lot zoning districts. So you have at least 4 suggestions in the memorandum, and certainly would welcome any ideas the commission has, or any kind of input on one of the 4 or any of the 4 that might provide further direction for staff to bring something back to the commission in November.
Great, thank you. So just so I'm understanding, so our recommendation in January went forward, but they chose not to take that recommendation, and so it's kind of like, back to the Planning Commission for something else is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
And then you've come up with the 4 options. Okay, I want to make sure that's clear.
And these are only options that we can think of at a staff level. So if again, completely open to suggestions. These can be combined with any of the 4 or a new idea. It would obviously be welcome.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as I recall, that there was a lot of controversy in that with some feedback from public, right, on those corner lots, if I recall. So, commissioners, do you have thoughts on the 4 options, preferences, feedback, ones you like better, or questions?
Can you show them on the big screen?
I don't know that they had the 4 options on the memo on a PowerPoint.
We don't. Commissioner Teal, I can recite those briefly if that would help.
It's Commissioner Bowers, but yes.
Commissioner Bowers. So the first option was for the Planning Commission to simply continue to recommend what you did in January. The second option would build on that January recommendation, but perhaps explore a transparency qualifier for, we have a provision in our code now that speaks to wrought iron fencing interspersed with columns. That could be expanded to go to either the front or flanking or the front and flanking streets on corner lots. The third option would be probably the best suited, but also the most problematic and expensive, and that would be to get a case-by-case analysis of how far a fence could extend into a flanking yard based on the recommendations of a licensed engineer or architect. And then the third option or the fourth option may be to apply criteria and develop a process through a conditional or special use permit for corner lot fencing. Again, that would be best suited probably in most cases, but it's also expensive and time consuming.
That help,
This
Commissioner
is
Bowers?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Bowers. So it sounds like even though options 3 and 4 are more expensive, 4 would actually enable us to not have to do a situation by situation analyses.
It would take the planning commission out of it, but replace the commission with the hearing examiner on a case-by-case basis.
It's hard for me to recall the public feedback, but I think I recall that, the reason the one I keyed on was I think it was option 2 with the building on what we did with the transparency. Because I think that was a lot of it is like being able to see through those fences and like the wrought iron option or other options, that there was some attractiveness about that and it wasn't in the option. So I'm trying to recall all the public feedback, but I'm thinking that maybe that would be an option that would be more palatable to some of the public. But I'm not positive that you can't please everybody, but that might be something. If you're able to see through some of those fences, that it might be something they prefer.
Yes, Commissioner Mendes, I guess if we continue the recommendation, City Council is going to have the same issue with the larger lots, so that's not really an option. The other, number 2, any downsides to number 2? I'm not seeing anything.
I can't think of any offhand. I'm sure there are, but it's like Commissioner, it'll be more pricey. Yeah.
Yes.
However, you might be able to explore an option that has transparency above 3.5 feet, let's say, or whatever the existing. I think it is 3.5 feet. The 3.5 feet of block and 2.5 feet of wrought iron. Probably expensive.
Seems to me that option 3 and 4 are also expensive, so.
Any other feedback for staff on this one? Yeah. Commissioners on the phone? So option 2 is not limited to large lots then?
No,
That's okay.
I
I just want to make
to,
sure because
yeah.
I like the idea of not limiting, but giving folks flexibility and there's probably a wide range of materials that fence folks could come up with for transparency, depending on your tastes, I guess.
Yes, Commissioner Mendes, I was going to say, yeah, it could provide some flexibility, some creativity as well. And so there might be some additional benefits to that as well. So thank you.
So I'm just asking a question. So option 2 basically is option 1, but not just for large lots?
Well, the options proposed in the report to the planning commission are all recommended to be used universally, not just a particular zoning district. The safety concerns are the same if it's a 20,000 square foot lot or a 7,200 square foot lot or a 5,000 square foot lot. You still have the same visibility concerns at the intersections.
Go ahead, Commissioner Hendler.
Just to refresh my memory, this is primarily a safety issue, is that correct? I just want to reaffirm that in my own mind.
It is, and
Visibility and, yeah.
for the life of me, I cannot find, and none of staff can, find how we ended up with what we had before this kind of hit the fan and we started looking at ways to revise it. I simply can't piece together what it was trying to solve at that point in time. Just can't. And also, if you recall, there was it's in the attached staff report from January. There's also an added qualifier that talks about two corner lots. So you have the shared street frontage and then the two flanking streets on either side of both those lots. They cannot be addressed on the shared street. So it kind of digs into the subdivision code in a bit too, because you're going to have to design lots now that can be addressed on the non-shared street. But yes, Commissioner Hendler, it was intersection visibility safety.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else on this item? Feedback for staff or thoughts?
It's just really hard to vote without. I appreciate the overhead drawings, but not seeing like a photo example. It's very hard for me to respond.
Thank you, Commissioner Bauer. That's fair. I mean, maybe, I don't know if it's a workshop or, next time is maybe with some proposals, like say we went with, I don't know, would we do a public hearing on this again, or is most likely, and then maybe having the visualizations to support that might be helpful, or?
That's a good question. Yes, we don't provide this in code now, so we can't go out and take pictures necessarily, but we can provide something, I'm sure, at least so the commission can have a better idea. It might be best, I know that this was kind of a burning issue. It might be best to have a second workshop in November and then schedule for a hearing. And what we'll try to do is come up with two sound options at least and explore those in more detail. The commission can go from there.
And then maybe the mock-ups,
Yeah.
so even if it's a drawing and not a picture,
Yeah.
that might help in a workshop. How does the commissioners feel about that? Would that help, Commissioner Bauer, to your concerns?
Well, I'm glad we're going to have another session on this before a public hearing. Again, photos help me visualize a lot better than just drawings.
Yeah, understood. I think it's just a difficult trying to find a photo of a lot that doesn't exist for a code that doesn't exist, right? All right, anything else? That's the last item on our workshop. We have no other business on our agenda tonight. So unless there's any other items for discussion, I would recommend a motion to adjourn. Oh, did you have something you were? Oh, sorry. I'd recommend a motion to adjourn if there's no any other items from staff or commissioners.
I second that.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Commissioner
Bowers.
Bowers has moved to adjourn and Commissioner Campos has seconded. Moved and seconded. This meeting is adjourned at 7:10 PM.